We are in a 2015 Chevy Malibu, and if I did not have the hood open, you would see something that says like low oil pressure, shut off engine. Okay, so here's the codes we have. We have engine oil pressure, sensor performance, and sensor circuit low voltage. Here we have some data, and yes, the first thing I did is check the oil. It is topped off with oil. Engine oil pressure in PSI is at 0. Engine oil pressure sensor in volts is at 0. I am now underneath the car on my back, and it's a very tight fit because I don't have the car lifted up very high. But if we come inside of here, you can see there goes your alternator, and off to the left is your starter right there. And right next to the starter, you're going to see the connector for the oil pressure sensor. And that piece back there, that right there is the oil pressure sensor. Now, I had a hard time getting this connector off, and I figured there had to be corrosion. That's why it was fighting me to come off. So once I finally get it off, sure enough, there's corrosion inside of the connector. And I looked at the pins of the actual sensor, and everything looks to be okay. So this is why the car thinks that it has no oil pressure. So we're gonna see if we could try to clean up this connector and get the corrosion off of it. Okay, so with a small pin, I came in here, and you're not trying to jam it in there and, you know, mess up the connector, but I try to be as careful as I can and just kind of dragging it back and forth, clean off as much corrosion as I can, and then spray it with some like contact cleaner. But I think it'll do, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put some dielectric grease around the connector. You don't really want to pack it inside of there because dielectric grease is not for that. It's actually an insulator. Okay, so the car is now running, but unfortunately just cleaning off the connector and plugging it back in was not gonna cut it. It did not fix the problem. We still had our warning sign on the dash. So looking at the data right here, with the sensor unplugged right now, we are no longer getting a warning sign on the dash. And looking at the oil pressure PSI, it says 70, and I noticed that it's fluctuating. It says like 68, 69, 70, and down here it says, it's hard to see, but it says 3 volts. Now, I don't think this is a default strategy by the car, because if it relies on the oil pressure sensor so heavily, I would imagine that as soon as it gets unplugged, it would give you the warning sign that we are getting on the dash. But instead, with it unplugged, it's actually happy, as if everything's okay. So I don't think it's a default strategy of the computer trying to do this. I think there's just so much corrosion on the connector that it's bridging 2 wires together, and it's creating this false voltage. Took a while to get the sensor, but we had a new connector a while ago, and I already went ahead and installed that. Let's see if I can give you guys a good shot of it. You can see the white wires right there going into it, and so look at its location, way up there. Ask me how easy that was to splice in new wires. That wasn't very easy at all. Today we just got the new sensor in, so I just pulled the old one out and I put the new one in. Obviously that's why we have this leak going on of oil coming out. It's hard to see, but there is some green crusties right there on that first pin. And as soon as you plug in this sensor, it starts throwing all kinds of warnings on the dash because this sensor is no good already. So everything's buttoned up, that sensor is tight and plugged in, and it's ready to go. So I'm just going to try to clean up some of this oil that I spilled that came out that sensor hole, and let's go look at the scan data and clear any codes. You guys are not going to believe this. I've never seen one of these. It's electronic. It holds your phone. Watch this. Come on, move. I know you can. Look at that. Look at that. And once you put your phone in, I've never seen one of the technology. The future is now. So here's the codes that we have. Engine oil pressure sensor performance, circuit low, circuit high. So let's go ahead and clear these codes. Alright, so here goes the data. You see our engine oil level switch says okay. Oil pressure 38 to 42 or 45 psi. It's fluctuating a little bit, but that looks good. And then we have our oil pressure sensor in volts, 2 volts. So I guess the car is happy. Clear the check engine light. I'm gonna go ahead and cycle the key. Make sure it doesn't throw a code. Okay, so check engine light has not come back on. Data still looks good. Let's go ahead and scan for codes. Sorry guys. Bless me. Alright, we're all set here. Looks like this one's good to go. So that's it. Not so bad of a job, minus trying to splice in that wire. That was a real pain in the butt.